Hello, hello, and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Titan Talk. I'm Isaiah, Kilgun with me as usual, and Pon Pon is back because we are continuing our series on Open Beta 15, which shaped up to be a rather large update with everything that we've talked about. So we talked about the healing pass and items on Monday. We talked about Hu Yi, some of the content and some of the quality of life stuff on Wednesday. But we've still got a lot more balance to go through, all the god changes, even more item changes that aren't necessarily linked to that healing pass, as well as going over some changes of some things that we've, kind of addressed after monitoring PTS and flash tests and stuff like that.
Yep, just lots of things this week.
Yeah,
yes,
it's a big one.
for sure. Sweet. Well, is there anything that you all have to kind of cover at the top of the show before I hop into the handy dandy desktop and we can get into our notes deep dive?
Yeah, I have the so for healing, right? Like, so this is now going to be where we talk about the actual healing adjustments we did to gods. If you played on the PTS, you would have seen them. You would have been playing with them. They were all there on PTS. We just hadn't had a chance to talk about it yet. So I think it's good to kind of restate the goals. So generally, if you have access to very easy healing, this is, you just cast the ability, you instantly get the healing. There's nothing really conditional about it. That's going to be more heavily hit. If you can hit a whole bunch of your teammates with it, that's going to be more heavily hit. If it's more like self-focused with conditional, so this is like Achilles' heel, right? You're going to not be hit as much because that's generally not why you're buying anti-heal as much anyway. And that's just how we're choosing to balance these heals out. So you'll see that reflected in the list of gods where we go over some characters are closer to like a 30% nerf. Some characters are closer to a 60% nerf. 60% I think was like the absolute top end. Even most of the heavy ones are like around 50% actually.
And keep in mind, most of the time you were being anti-healed for at least 50% if people were building items the way they should be, right? And it capped at 75. So realistically, against organized teams, you were capped. You were 75% anti-heal most of the time.
And that all just fits with the goal of making the healing experience more consistent, both for the people who are healing as well as the people who are playing against the healing. So the only other bit is the changes are also kind of weighted towards later in the game. So we try to keep healing at the early stages of the game pretty similar. They are adjusted downwards, but like not nearly as much as like by the time you get to actually rank 5 of the ability or you're level 20 with your scaling. So you'll also see that because the laning phase healing was largely pretty stable. Some characters did have access to like anti-heal in the laning phase, so we did nerf it a little bit there, but it's a lot less. And then the characters who got more heavily hit, they did get other kind of shift buffs to help them out as well. So Cupid was the example I talked about where he got healing reduction, but now when you pick up his hearts, they give the person picking them up and him attack speed. Aphrodite gets a higher protection share and more lower cooldown or ultimate. These are just like there to like just be like compensation buffs in that direction, just to increase their utility because they're bringing utility to the team if they're not bringing as much healing in the raw format of combat.
Sweet. Well, I will go ahead and bring up the handy dandy desktop and let's get right into it, shall we? So just as a reminder, there are a few gods that are getting some anti-heal added to their kit. We've got them listed up here at the very top: Agni, Ares, Fenrir, Izanami, and Chalk's Aspect. One second.
No.
You know what I think happened? I was on that screen for so long, my screensaver popped up. So they're like, "What are you doing? Get into the notes." All right, we're back, chat. Sorry about that. So yeah, Agni, Ares, Fenrir, Izanami, and Chalk's Aspect all gaining anti-heal. And then let's get right into the list of gods. There are a lot. We're not going to go in depth on every single god change because most of them are of the nature that Pon was talking about, just reduced healing or lifesteal.
I think to keep things simple, I'll go, this was on the 30% side, this is closer to the 50% side, and I'll just make any specific call. So like Achilles, on the lower end of the side, this is a conditional heal, so this is close to the 30% side.
Sweet. All right, Amaterasu up next.
This one is a little bit more free, especially if you've got the healing, because you just cast it and got the heal. So this one got more heavily hit.
And then we've got Anubis, kind of our hallmark lifestealer.
Yeah, so lifesteal, this one is more like we've kind of kept most things to be 50% unless it's really, really conditional. So this is just the 50% reduction that matches the item effects.
Yeah. All right, moving right along, we'll probably spend a little bit more time on Afro just because, as Pon mentioned, she is getting a couple of compensation kind of buffs to her utility.
Yeah, so her heal is both relatively free, especially for herself. She does have to link to a target to heal them as well, so there's a little bit of friction there, but she's known for her healing. We've largely reduced it by about like half around there, and we just expect that in combat, you're going to be able to actually bring that healing to your teammate more consistently. You're going to bring that to yourself more consistently. Out of combat healing is going to be reduced. So overall, this should be probably a nerf to her ability to like just sustain herself freely outside of lane, but her ability to save her teammate should go up, especially with things like having Undying Love more frequently, as well as having Kiss sharing more protections more quickly, as well as also just having access to healing utility items that allow her to heal more frequently as well, or bring different utility for healing.
Yeah, I mean you can double love bursts now.
Yeah.
With, which one is that?
Heartwood Charm.
Heartwood
Triple
Charm.
if you get Mirrodin as well.
Yeah,
you know?
you can triple if you want to. Yeah.
All right. Up next, Artemis Aspect. This was a funny one to where we were thinking about, is this really a healing ability or is it not? But
yeah. So I guess so is now marked as a healing ability, as you'll see on basically all of these. We went back and forth about what should count and what shouldn't, and I think we just largely went on, if you heal from this ability, it's a healing ability.
Yeah.
Being more restrictive might just feel arbitrary. So even though like you're not super known for this, it's going to be a healing ability. Same with Sickening Strike was like another case. Like you're more there for the damage, but the heal does matter. So we want to make sure it was tagged as a healing ability, which means when you get items like cooldown reduction on healing abilities, or immediately reset your cooldown abilities. That works.
I didn't even think
like
about
that.
Strat. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so this somewhat free healing. So we just wanted to reduce it close to probably the 40% mark.
All right, Bacchus up next. Chug and Belch to the Gods.
A relatively free heal, but it also didn't have any scaling, so we didn't go super crazy on it. So just a reduction here.
Yeah, and then Bacchus is our first example of the gods who have anti-heal in their kit is getting reduced to 25%.
Yep.
Next up, Baron Samdi. A little bit more here with Baron.
Yeah, so he's closer to the 50% mark on his heal. It requires a hit, but it's not that hard to hit the ability, especially in a team fight. It immediately heals like your whole team around you and where you hit. So we didn't fully take away from the missing health scaling 50%, so that's still there strong. You still have your cooldown rate scaling, and then as our compensation for that, we made the speed buff more intense.
Yes. All right, next up, Bologna Scourge. Just decrease the healing.
Yep, just increase the heal scaling. We think the base there largely makes sense. It's not a crazy amount of healing. You have to get in range and actually melee your target and stay in your Scourge stance. But the scaling component could make that go really, really high. So that's the part that we're taking down.
All right, Cabrakan is up next.
So Cabrakan, this is the enhanced refraction shield. This one is on the basically lowest end. You have to get to the enhanced one and you have to hit someone. So, and this isn't a crazy amount of healing, so just not as much.
Yeah. All right, Cerberus up next. A few changes here.
So the healing reduction on his passive, that's now 25%, so he's there.
Yeah.
I meant to check this before the show because I remember I had a wording question, but it's gonna bite me. So people will be less anti-healed, which means that the amount that you get back from your passive is different. And I want to say that the amount you get back from your passive isn't actually conditional on that. It's just a amount that heal would do. So I don't know if this actually, I wanted to go test a few scenarios and like more definitively say if this was a buff or a nerf. So I need to go look at that after this. I still have some time before we fully branch, but I wanted to look at that specific interaction because it came up on the PTS as well, and I just haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But there's that part of it. But also Soul Expulsion, you have to leap onto a god, so you have to then follow up and kill those minions, just less.
Cool. All right, Kernanos is up next with his Spring Stance and Shifter of Seasons.
Yep, so you have to hit your basic attacks, you have to sit in Spring Stance, so I didn't want to hit this by full half, especially at the early ranks where you have like only a rank in this ability. We didn't want to make it too low on the lifesteal. But the actual heal scaling, the scaling late game side of things, if you really build towards that stat, then the healing becomes really significant, and we wanted to hit that more aggressively.
Yep. All right, Chalk up next.
Yep, so Overflow takes a little bit of effort, so close to half, especially because it's intelligent scaling based rather than just a flat amount. Same with Rain Dance. The scaling portion of it got halved, while the base amount of it didn't get halved. So if you're going the strength chalk build, you won't notice as much of a difference here. If you're going that more heal focused build, you will notice more of a change.
All right, Cupid up next. Another one with a little bit more heavy nerfs, but some other compensation buffs in place of that.
Yes. Right? Yep. So again, halved. These are relatively free to pick up. They're pretty strong. They're not quite as free because you do have to position and actually get them, so they're not quite as nerfed. He gets the attack speed buffer. So if he picks it up, he'll get 10% attack speed. If an ally picks it up, they'll get 10% attack speed, and he'll get 10% attack speed. So it's never a downside for your teammates to pick up the hearts.
And those don't stack, so he doesn't get like 30 if all three are picked up.
Oh, no, it's 30.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm just making sure.
That's a good thing to call out.
It's pretty good. This might be too good. We might end up making it so it's only one, but This one just felt like an interesting thing, and there's not really any other rules with the other things that he shares, so I just wanted to keep that consistent.
Yeah.
Field to Love, similarly, decreased scaling. Because we gave him such a strong one, I was a little bit more heavy-handed on this one, because even though it's an ult level cooldown, it could also heal for just a lot, and the fact that we're giving more of a compensation buff there. And then the Aspect, that's further healing that he can get. It wasn't hit as much as well, just because you have to actually be near the target that you heart bomb, which is a little bit more conditional for your teammates, so not as heavily hit.
Cool. All right, next up, Danzaburo, Alluring Spirits.
It's just free healing. Didn't want to
for free. You just pop it and you heal.
Yep. Didn't want to hit the base. This one is if you're on the intelligence side. We just don't want you to heal as much there.
Yep. All right. Fenrir up next. Life steal nerf, but he also is getting the added anti-heal to his kit
and
too.
It's not quite the 50% life steal nerf, just because his ability to leverage it like Anubis does was a little bit less, and we also just think that this could use a buff in general.
Cool. All right. Guan Yu up next. Going to spend some time on Guan just because there are some changes based off of some of the PTS feedback that we got. So, Conviction, you can see here this increased self cooldown reduction from 2 to 3 seconds has been crossed out. That was initially the plan. We've decided to not do that, but instead increase the ally cooldown reduction.
Yeah, it made the cooldown healing build too effective on PTS. We have a few other nerfs in that vein as well. We think it's actually probably better to just make the ally side of it, because one, it's harder for like allies to abuse that cooldown reduction the same way, and two, it's also just team utility that he can bring in addition to what he was bringing before. But because Conviction on such a low cooldown, it's so frequent, it's pretty easy to heal your teammates. This one's getting pretty much the full anti-heal adjustment that we've talked about. And then Aspect of General just essentially received the mirror of that change as well.
Cool. All right, Hades up next.
So this one, again, pretty easy to trigger. You do have to mark targets. This one was a little bit where we went back and forth about if we wanted to go this far, but the fact that he gets protections and intelligence scaling on it, and we've made it easier for him to like actually apply to people, we felt like we'd go on the heavier side of things. It's also one of the reasons right now, like his kind of bruisery side is really strong right now, which we've seen it as potentially needing a nerf as well. So it's kind of a balance adjustment in that regard. So that's why his is a bit harsher.
Hercules up next, mitigate wounds, kind of in the same vein.
Yep, so the base heal stays relatively strong. It didn't get fully adjusted. And the heal from recent damage taken, again, also didn't get just as much. This one was contentious in our discussions on PTS. This might end up being nerfed more, but we feel like it is conditional on you actually having to take damage. You're not going to be healing back as much. We'll see how this one pans out. It's really focused on like the tankier side builds too. If you're squishy Hercules, like your jungle Hercules, you're just going high damage, you're probably going to fall over anyway. But if you're playing the tank side of things, that side we felt has needed a buff in general, and we've tried to do a few adjustments in that path as well, or down that path as well. So we'll see if this needs to be nerfed more, but that's where it's sitting for now.
Hua Mulan up next, just decreasing the healing.
Yep, just decreasing the healing. It's conditional, so it didn't get the major adjustment. So again, not like the other characters where like they do just big AoE healing. This one's more focused around self. And in these types of changes, right, the general idea is, yeah, your out of combat healing when you're just kind of fighting certain things goes down, but your in combat healing should be generally on average higher. So this should feel better, like when you're in the middle of the team fight, you've dove the enemy team. Yeah. Same with Achilles, you should feel like you're actually healing more in those circumstances.
Cool. All right, Kali up next, and there is a lot here, plus some additional changes based off of PTS feedback,
every single time now we make a balance change to Kali, I end up realizing her notes just have to be long.
Yeah.
There's just so much to it now. Yeah, so she's probably the first example that we've come across of a character that is super high risk, high reward, plays with their health. Thanatos is the other one that comes to mind. So her adjustments are a lot more interesting in that regard. So we're decreasing the passive heal, we're decreasing the mark heal assist even more. We still want kills to be pretty rewarded if you actually kill your execute target. If that's too low, the reward just doesn't feel satisfying. But getting that incidental assist when that happens, that one can be nerfed by half. Yep. The missing health heal from her 1 is also being reduced to 6% missing health. Still should be a pretty potent heal, but it's closer to the half side of things. Rupture, pretty big decrease across the board. The base got closer to like the 40% mark on the nerf. The heal per stack being that 30% side, and the scaling being more on the 40% side of things. You do have to build up these stacks, so that's why we didn't go as heavy, but it is on the heavier side of things that we could do. And then Aspect of Unbound Destruction, we decrease the heal bonus. That's just a flat amount. That one, because you have to actually land a whole bunch of auto attacks on a target, we felt we could keep a little bit strong. But the one thing that came up was the lifesteal in her ultimate makes it so that she can really easily spike her health up really, really quickly. Yeah. And even 15% was probably too high. If we weren't doing this healing pass, we probably would have nerfed this already. So like that, we would have probably taken it from like 15 to 25 to like 15 to 20. Mm-hmm. So now this is kind of more mirroring like a balance change we would have made.
Yeah. All right. Up next, Mordred.
And I do see quite a lot of people talking about like, is this a nerf or a buff? We saw healers doing pretty well on the PTS. It's really hard to evaluate these changes because we're
going to need a lot more data.
Decrease down the board, but again, the whole context of healing items that work off healing abilities, like Kali now has access to Vital Amplifier, which is just a very good item. Bellona has access to Vital Amplifier, which is really good. Hercules has access to his to Regrowth Striders, which is a really good
Those
combo.
New shoes.
A lot of the healers now have access to like double heal when they really need to spike someone up, and they know that's not going to be anti-healed nearly as effectively now. Like it's going to be really hard to value these changes, and that's why we're going to be really fast to respond to these. Yeah. But I see people be like, "Oh yeah, this character's dead. This character's dead." It's like we did want to go probably on the side of if we were wavering if we were doing too light or too little, we want to be a little bit too heavy because that meta is probably more fun for everyone than healing being too oppressive. Yeah. But we do want to find a good balance point for these abilities. So on to Mordred.
Yes.
The scaling components for both of these, the base mount we didn't want to adjust for him, but the scaling components when he actually builds either a whole bunch of intelligence or a whole bunch of protections, that's the part we want to hit more directly.
Yep. All right. Neith is up next.
Neith. This one was actually the one that gave us the half damage on Heartwood because otherwise you could just double Unravel, get a whole bunch of weaves, and that was just really good damage. It's not too difficult to hit, so we did a more aggressive hit, especially on the scaling side. The base amount remained unchanged for the more strength-oriented Neith.
All right. Nemesis up next. Retribution.
We decrease the heal of the damage blocked because it is just conditional amount of damage that you're taking. So we didn't want to hit this too much. This is probably the only one that's not the 30% adjustment low end. But the scaling, when you actually build a whole bunch of intelligence, that's the part that got hit more directly.
Yeah. And one thing I do want to call out with Nemesis, just because I've seen questions about it, the ultimate is missing because it is not classified as a heal. Correct.
The ultimate is we did this in like a previous pass about it being like a health share thing. And so we want to keep going down that direction with it because we think that made it more interesting. We'll see if that ends up biting us and we have to go back on that. But that's why that's not here.
Yeah, specifically Aspect Nemesis.
Yes.
One thing that we just thought it was important to denote, Odin still going to 100% anti-heal if people are in his cage.
We think that's a core identity to that ability, fully blocking healing. And then if we bring over Osiris and Serket, those characters that have 100% anti-heal, we'll also bring that over with
them. I think we'd also mentioned like, Opwash, part of his core identity is anti-heal. So
Serket, Osiris, those gods,
Yeah, we'll make sure that like if anti-heal was like one of their identifying features, that still gets respected.
Yeah. All right, Pele is up next. She has healing changes and non-healing pass adjustments as well.
So the first off, the healing changes. The passive lifesteal, we want to keep that strong because that's like the hype moment when you get low health. So we didn't do the full half treatment there. But the overall aspect of Obsidian healing, that one's getting pretty much halved across the board, especially with the scaling of health from items. It's not difficult to build up the fuel and spend the fuel because you can just do that out of combat. So that's why I got more hits. But even outside of that, Pele is like, I actually think our winningest god across basically every game mode. Yep. She's also pretty high band.
I tried to tell people, and they were like, "Oh no, this aspect's so bad."
Dude, the aspect is real good. Yeah,
aspect's good. Even non-aspect. Non-aspect's doing well too. So we felt like she needed additional changes. So she's losing about 100 max health at level 20, so we're decreasing her per health level. We're decreasing the scaling and the base damage of Pyroclast, and we're also lowering the movement speed as she gets an eruption. The number there doesn't really mean much because the way our movement speed calc works, and it's a curve that like I couldn't really describe. So just know that she's not going to move as much when she casts eruption.
Chat is noting that we did not mention Merlin's heal dash.
He is on my list still. I don't have numbers yet. I have, after this show, I have 3 hours till we branch, and I have like 3 things I still need to look at.
Yeah, I was going to call it out once we got through everything, but there is stuff on your list that will trickle in that we'll probably cover on our Monday show. When we
Hui, I'm going to buff the aspect. I know what direction I want to go with it, but we think it was a little bit too niche on PTS, so we want to give it a little bit more. That's the kind of stuff that I still have to look at before we block everything.
Cool. All right, we will move right along. Ra up next.
Ra, relatively easy heal to cast. You throw it on an area, you heal people pretty quickly. This didn't get the full 50% adjustment because you do have to stand in an area, but it got pretty heavily hit. And the ultimate, we actually kept the heal pretty strong on this one because it is an ultimate level cooldown. It's what you build the aspect for. And we felt like we didn't need to then do the compensation buff that we kind of did on the Cupid side. So Cupid's ult got more heavily hit than this ultimate did, but we also didn't do any like kind of compensation level change. So we think like this, if you're going to burn an ultimate level cooldown of a line skill shot and hit someone, I feel like it should probably be respected in that sense.
All right, next up is Rama. Let's take a break from talking about healing for a second.
Yeah, this is completely unrelated.
Not related to healing at all, but Rama getting some changes in the update.
Yeah, essentially these were his intended numbers, and when it got brought up that he just kind of felt underwhelming, I went and looked. I was like, oh yeah, the numbers are just wrong. He's supposed to have a base attack speed of 1. He was also supposed to have an attack speed pro of 1.7, so this means that he was just missing out on attack speed that he should have had. And it might look minor, but especially the base attack speed number, when you buy 20% attack speed, it doesn't like take your current attack speed and do 20 on top of that. It takes your base amount and gives you 20% of that. So if you actually have like a 0.8 attack speed auto attack speed's just not as good for you. So this coming up means like I think the difference was like I went like a pretty standard build, and with the stim on, I went from like 2.84 attack speed to like 3.1.
Ah, okay.
So it can be pretty impactful. So we might need to do more for Rom because we were looking at him because he was underperforming, but these base stats adjustments like these generally help a lot.
Yeah. All right. Sobek up next. Sickening Strike.
Same note. This is a conditional. You have to hit targets. It's a base amount, so we didn't do a too heavy adjustment to it. He's also getting the healing reduction.
Cool.
Change.
All right, moving right along. Soul up next.
Yes, Radiance, we decreased the heal scaling. We didn't do a full 50% on it, but this is the part that can make it heal pretty significantly. We just felt like we should probably adjust that.
We'll talk about Soul a little bit later.
Yes.
I've got a whole section about bug fixes and other stuff post-PTS towards the bottom.
So the people who are saying the tank, there's like a specific tank Soul build that was doing really well. We'll get there.
Yes, we'll get to it.
We're aware, chat.
This document is 21 pages, so we'll get to it, I promise. Thanatos up next.
Very similar to Kali. Just Thanatos isn't doing as well as Kali right now, so just slightly different numbers here. But we want to make sure the kill felt rewarding. We didn't adjust the minion kill because that is his pacing for like jungle clear and sustainability in the jungle. We decreased the heal he got from his Death Scythe. Someone just fell over.
Either somebody fell or somebody's walking on the roof or
maybe.
something.
I don't know.
We did also decrease the health cost since we were making the payoff for hitting it a little bit less. So if you whiff this, it shouldn't feel as bad. Yeah. And then aspect of reaping the Soul Reap, we also decreased the scaling on that.
Cool. All right, we are nearing the end of Gods. Thor, aspect of Thunderstruck up next.
Yep. So this is his aspect side of things. We didn't do quite a 50% adjustment here. You have to actually get in combat and hit a whole bunch of people, but it's close to halved.
All right, Ool. Another sneaky life stealer, you know?
Yes, I do actually think I did change this.
Okay.
So we're changing so much. I do think this one is now 4 to 14.
Okay.
I think we ended up cutting it in half, basically. Cool. Instead of doing not quite half lifesteal adjustment. Especially with some of his interaction with some of the lifesteal items, this amount of base lifesteal is actually pretty good. So that's why we adjusted it further.
Cool. All right. And then last up on our list for God changes, Yamoja.
Yes, so Omi, it doesn't heal for as long. So that's kind of the adjustment we made because if we were to half what it did, the numbers just end up feeling really small. So we just lowered the duration. So if you are currently maintaining it, it's actually going to be pretty similar, but a lot of the healing and shielding capability comes from Mending Waters. That one is now going to be decreased that heal is going to be decreased pretty much by the full half at the later ranks. And that's also because it does a lot of other things other than the healing.
Cool. All right, well, that is it for Gods. Guys, you want to take a quick break? That was a lot. Need a sip of water? Pon, where's your drink? You know?
I didn't get a drink. I end up like every time I bring a drink, I end up just not remembering it's there anyway.
All right, well, let's talk about items. Pon, these are not necessarily going to be healing focused in this section. Yes. Another thing that you alluded to earlier this week, there are going to be some tank adjustments here in this update as well, right?
Yeah, so this was another thing that came up just in feedback was that like certain tank items just don't feel that great. Tanks sometimes don't feel that great. We see that actually like when you do build tank side, you're doing pretty well and pretty successful when we look at the tank gods and look at some of the tank items, like they actually do really well. But there is a slew of those tank items that were just underperforming. Yeah. So if you had a current build of like, if you build like the current best tank items, you do pretty well. But we just want to expand what's available in that pool to you. So we looked at what the least performing tank items were and tried to bring them up.
Cool. All right, well, I will get into items. I think there are a few before we start talking about those, but Golden Blade is up first.
And then just very quick, the goal is really that we're not necessarily making tanks a whole bunch stronger. We're just making it so that you have more variety in the tank options that you build.
Cool. All right, let's talk about Golden Blade.
So it has a recipe change, which ended up being because of the healing pass, but then we didn't need it, but it still made sense to make this change. It just makes more sense building from Battle Axe and Manchu Bow because when you use basic attack, you do a thing. It just makes sense. It also makes it a bit easier to build into. We also increased the strength on it just because this item was just underperforming across the board, and we think that we could use this level of change.
Cool.
I built this morning.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Shield Splitter up next. Decrease in cost and increase in strength.
Yep. Another it's a more bruiser item, but yeah, this one's underperforming. We think a small cost decrease, small strength increase is just going to help it. It's really also, it's not as popular because you build it for specifically shield counters.
Right. Yeah.
But when it was being built, it wasn't quite doing what it needed to do.
Erosion, another kind of anti-shield item, just increasing both prots.
Yep. It was just underperforming. Feels like it could just use more prots.
All right, Leviathan's Hide. Some changes here. Let's talk about it, Vaughn.
So we want to put more of the onus on actually getting Leviathan's Hide stacks on the user of Leviathan Hide. Because right now you're kind of at the whim of your opponent just needing to completely wail on you to actually get stacks. And now it's actually more like you're managing a cooldown. You need to be, the onus on you to hit it. And if you're able to do this, you can actually stack it up a lot more effectively. I wagered that if you're really trying to optimize this, getting one stack every 12 seconds, because you're also getting cooldown reduction when you're hit, seems reasonable. And at that pace, you can get quite a lot of health from this item. And we just think it's also better that when you buy an item, it should be kind of you responsible for getting the effect.
Yeah. All right, up next on the list, Berserker Shield getting some changes.
Yep, Berserker Shield just really underperforming. The passive is good when it can proc in certain circumstances, but the baseline item just wasn't good enough.
All right, Musashi's Dual Sword. That's a fun item to say. Few changes here on this side.
It was the least bought, least successful crit item.
Yep.
It should feel better for the characters who actually care about the movement speed, especially like melee-focused crit characters. So cost decrease, strength increase, movement speed buff increase, movement speed duration increase, just across the board, making it feel better.
All right, Magi's Cloak, seeing a decrease in cost and increase in both protections.
Yeah, it released really strong, and then we nerfed it, and we kind of left it there. This is kind of bringing it back towards the center.
All right, Genji's Guard up next.
Again, just another item. It's good against magic damage, but it just wasn't quite good enough in what it was doing. So increased protection, increased cooldown rate helps it.
Cool. One of our newer tank-focused items, getting some changes here. Dwarven Plate, increasing both prots, but also fixing an issue where it was only providing 10% and 20% of your protections, rather than the intended 12.5 and 25.
Yeah, of the trio, so it was Draconic Scales, Freya's Tears, and Dwarven Plate. The other two were actually 53-54% win rate, which is pretty good for tier 3s, because if you get to them, you generally have a higher win rate. This one was at 50, which for tier 3 item is generally underperforming. It should be aligned with them, and so we gave it more prots, and we also fixed an issue. I was going to buff this to 15 and 30%, but then when I went in there, I was like, oh, it's 10 and 20. Yeah. That's just wrong.
Let's just fix it first before we, moving right along, Draconic Scales, another one of our newer items. Lots of notes here on this one, Paul. Talk to me about it.
So this one came up in a Titan talk about why don't the scales contribute to my Gladiator Shield damage, right? And or those types of effects. And the answer was, well, flat protection increases from items should count as item protection, but percentage ones don't, because it becomes like an infinite loop type thing when you try and do work with that. So it felt like the scales, the flat portion should. We also had a note for Spirit Robe because someone said that it wasn't working with Spirit Robe. And when I went and did my test cases, Spirit Robe was working correctly. If you get Spirit Robe procced and you hit with Gladiator Shield, it does work. So whoever brought that up, I don't remember who it was. I would need to know actually what you tried to use, because probably that ability isn't considering item protections correctly.
All right.
That's what that second note's for.
And I think last up for this item section, Jade Scepter, pretty popular item, going to be seeing a nerf.
Yeah, this one, especially with certain characters, I think Ganesha is the one of the prime cases for this. The amount of damage you got and how frequently you could do it just ended up making it so that you kind of always had the combo going, and you didn't really feel like you had to sacrifice much for the combo. we're cool with an item like this being a more combo fulfiller. That's kind of like what it was meant to be in the first place. It just should have appropriate stats for that case.
Yes. And then the cooldown, of course, increased by 20 seconds as well. All right, let's talk about PTS balance and fixes. So, lots of games over the flash test over the past few days. And then another thing that I'll go ahead and mention, Kabir stopped in before the show. We're actually going to leave PTS up over the weekend for people who are interested in just slamming some customs in PTS and trying things out before the update. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. But based off of what we've been seeing over the past couple days, there are some changes, right, Bon?
Yeah, so the... First off, thanks to everyone who actually went onto the PTS. I know that getting on the PTS client and playing games can be like, you have to download it and go through all that process. But we got a lot of really good feedback from it. A lot of people were playing games. We found a lot of things because of that. So thank you guys all for playtesting.
We hit our limit of instances that we can support on the PTS. So we had to scale it up. Yep. So good job logging in and playing, guys.
So that's what these are. These are basically changes directly from the PTS phase, and I want to break them out because I felt it'd be good to talk about them and also use it as an opportunity to talk about how the healing changes went on PTS. Yeah. So we can kind of go through line by line on them.
All right, let's get right into it. Heartwood Charm up first fixed an issue on PTS where it was providing 20 cooldown rate instead of 10 as intended.
Yes, and Breastplate of Valor is probably with that as well. We saw basically the Heartwood Charm and Breastplate of Valor. It gave too much cooldown refund too quickly, so with a lot of the healing interactions, you could actually get quite an insane amount of healing up. And so we want these to be strong, but like obviously that synergy with them together was just too intense. So this would have probably been a day one, like we might have had to disable these items if they went live that way. So I think getting these nerfed this early was really good.
Absolutely. All right, up next, Regrowth Strider. We're increasing the heal duration, but decreasing the heal per tick.
Yep, so if you get the heal, it's not going to be as impactful in the moment. It's going to be that kind of more long tail. And if you're constantly refreshing it, it's not going to be as strong on you. But it is going to bring that kind of same level of sustain if you can keep it up in the long term.
All right, up next, Blood-Soaked Shroud. Decreased the enemy heal and the God heal bonus.
Yeah, we did this because we saw that this was still too easily to apply to a whole bunch of targets, so the healing was a bit too intense. We reduced it there. We did keep the kill bonus the same. So that part, if you get a whole bunch of kills in this, you can make Blood-Soaked pretty strong because we didn't have that. Also, Death's Toll was the upgrade, Death's Embrace. That one didn't get adjusted because I think that one has enough limiting knobs on it that it wasn't too abused.
Spirit Robe, we kind of talked about it earlier on the show, but we've decreased the heal per tick.
Yep, at 6% it was a bit too much, going down to 4%, not quite halving, but this item was also discussed as just being very good in general, so just a slight nerf here goes a long way.
Well, this isn't a veiled reference.
Oh, no, it is not a veiled reference. This is just, that's the number it has to be.
Yeah.
And I could have done .6667 or
oh,
.666.
man.
I was like, no, it's a number that's...
It's just the subconscious, you know?
Yeah.
All right, Daybreak Gavel, getting a few changes here, Pawn. I know you sent those over to me early this morning.
Yeah, we had discussion just about like what items felt... Because there's definitely items that felt really strong, but I was also looking for the items that didn't feel super useful. Daybreak Gavel, there's some comparisons to it being kind of like Soul Gem, but not quite as good. So I wanted to make it so that, one, the cost is down, the health is up, so it's just easier to build, you're a bit tankier for it. But now you don't have to actually heal as many targets. And in other game modes too, like that's going to be a bit easier for you to trigger. So you don't have to heal as many people to get the scaling bonus.
All right, Baron Samdi up next. Consigned Spirits, we fixed an issue where the speed buff could stack on itself.
Yeah, which has been probably a long-standing issue with Staff of Mirrodin. But because you could now get 3 of them with Heartwood Charm, and the fact that we buffed it, it became apparent that, we need to fix this issue.
Next up, Princess Bari, Spirit's Cadence, the ultimate. We fixed an issue where you could heal while immune.
And same with the next one, which should be Soul, right? Yeah. So, you shouldn't be able to heal while you're Aegist. That's just been a long time Smite thing. It used to also be that when you're immune from other effects like Soul Disapparate, you also couldn't heal. We just didn't have that working correctly in Smite 2. And because of that, you could do a lot of things with these new items, like especially on Soul, where you could just heal back to like full while you were immune with a whole bunch of AoE procs that were happening. This just gives us a proper point to balance the ability. It matches more Smite 1. It's a more intuitive interaction how it works. Spirit's Cadence, this doesn't matter as much as it did for Soul, but we just felt like it should be consistent in the cases.
Is this also for Afro Alt?
No, Afro Alt's unique.
Okay.
Like that damage immunity doesn't work the same way.
Okay. Cool.
technically, disapparate. Here's SMITE 1 inconsistency for you. Just this, a little taste of what we deal with when we go back to SMITE 1, right? Like, Aegis definitely blocks healing. Mm-hmm. Soul was described as leaving the battleground, which means also if you walk into a fountain, you can't buy and you can't heal from the fountain. Afro ult, if that blocked healing, that would just be bad. They're all damage immunity.
But they're different.
They're different. So they're different.
Sweet. All right. Up next, just a few general things. Last on the list in this kind of PTS balance section.
Yeah, so fixed quite a few specific types of heals that were working or not working. I still have a few more to go look at. Kerber's 3 I have to go fix because the way that was set up was very different from how we set up all the other heals, so that one I still need to go look at. But we found a lot of interactions with things like you could, by having a lifesteal item with an ability, you could proc vital. So you could just get full vital stacks basically anytime you use an ability with lifesteal, stuff like that. So also, we fixed a lot of interactions with item interactions, like Sanguine Lash you could sell for positive gold, which was a fun bug. Gluttonous Grimoire didn't have its damage cap of 33% health, so you could sit AFK farming monsters for 99999 stacks and one-tap someone. The amount of stuff we fixed, I couldn't actually list it all. When I went back to like put it all together, I was like, this is just too much. But it was an opportunity. Like, yeah, thanks to everyone who played the PTS and sent in bug reports. We were able to fix a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
This cycle.
All right. Well, we've got one more section on this doc. I'm going to bring us back to cams though before we get into it, just because we do want to preface this section. We do have quite a few conquest level changes in this update, but we wanted to make sure that we communicated that this is not the conquest pass, correct?
Yes. Yeah, this is with all the stuff that we did for OB15, the giant list of stuff, we didn't want to sit with Conquest getting no adjustments for another patch.
Yes.
And even though we have stuff that we are going to be working on going forward for Conquest as a more major pass, we wanted to make sure you guys had something in the interim.
Yes.
So not the full pass. This isn't going to magically change Conquest across the board, but this is something that we think is going to make Conquest better in the short term.
Cool. All right. Well, I will go ahead, Killian.
I was just kind of
give us the spiel. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to spiel. This is the pawn show today. But no, I should say this is we wanted to do something. We didn't want to leave it how it is, right? Like Pawn was saying, this isn't the full. We aren't like cool. We're happy. We're done after this, right? This is just nudging it a little bit more in a better direction, hopefully, because we know that Conquest players have felt a little bit left out, and we agree that Conquest needs some help.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. All right. Well, I will bring up the handy dandy desktop. And before we get into the changes, Matt from the level design team wrote up a quick little TLDR on what we're kind of doing here. So we've got a slew of changes kind of focused on addressing two main things. And the first one was we just felt like there was too much safe farm on the map, specifically on the side lanes. Right, Pon?
Yeah. So we want people to feel like they can contest things, and getting lane pressure and poking people out has more impact. Right now, if you poke someone out in lane and they're forced to kind of be under their tower and you go to take something of theirs, they can just go to the side harpies. They could even go to your side harpies and farm that. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that was around the map that was pretty accessible that made it so that you could reasonably choose not to engage in actually contesting anything and not come out of the laning phase that much worse for wear. Laning phase, you should fight your opponent. Yeah, there's room for opportunity for some safe farm, but the amount that we had was just too much.
Yeah. So just a couple things, bullet points here. The contestable Cyclops camps now grant XP in addition to gold. The side camps now spawn later and less often, and the side teleporters unlock slightly earlier, but one of the side camps has been changed to oracles to grant vision of the teleporter for some time. So.
Yeah, so the Cyclops camp that's near Duo and Solo, it's more worth going for now. The side camps are less frequent and will spawn later, so that you won't have them as reliable a source of farm. And the oracles are giving utility rather than other things they could be giving than just raw amounts of stuff.
Cool. All right. And then the second thing, where some of these conquest changes are pointed to address, is that objectives are just a little bit too lethal.
Yeah. So this is, I don't want this to be conflated with too easy.
Yes.
Right. Because I think generally the camps, the objectives, when your team is actually there and on them, they actually die pretty quickly, which is another thing we'll end up discussing. But they also end up taking quite a big chunk out of the tanking it, or if you need to start it early because your team's going to be there, and you want to take a few hits of it, you might be half health pretty quickly before like your team can get there and then start tanking it, which means that your opportunity to pull it while the enemy team might be trying to get in position still, you see an opportunity, you end up having to pass up on those, or you feel like it's actually too risky for us to play the dance game of like Fire Giant. And that's where a lot of like interesting team fight dynamics come, where you pull the Fire Giant.
You're trying to bait.
And you're trying to bait them, but if the Fire Giant's actually too good at killing you, it ends up causing a situation where you don't want to do that because you might actually just completely lose the follow-up fight if it's too lethal.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to go for the objective because it puts you in a bad situation if the enemy team comes in and fights. So you have to get a pick before you can start trying to do the objective to force the fight or to force something.
Yeah, so the objectives should generally take a little bit longer to kill. I think Pyromancer was the one that we felt was like actually in a pretty good spot in this regard. It's also a little bit easier to get access to as well. So they're going to be a little bit harder to kill, but they also just won't kill you as hard back.
Yes. All right. Well, shall we get into just the individual change lists here? And one thing not called out.
So I want to go over that last bit one more time because we said it pretty quickly. So they should not do as much damage to you, but they should take a little bit longer to kill.
Yes.
Right? So objectives should be harder and take a little bit longer, but by going for them, you aren't getting yourself damaged so much that it's a bad idea to go for it before you get a pick. You know, hopefully there's just more action around the objectives with this change.
Cool. Yep. All right. Back to the handy dandy desktop. Going over the change list, let's talk about oracles first. Vision granted from this camp now reveals enemy wards inside the Gold Fury pit.
Yep. So this also kind of maps onto the other note, which is like you want to be able to like not only was there too much side farm, but we also want to make things that are contestable more worth it. Yeah. So having oracles be more impactful, choosing to ignore it on cooldown is going to be to your detriment.
Yeah. All right. Up next, the Fire Giant. Kind of touched on it, but there's a lot of change here. Pon, if you want to summarize for me.
Yes, very briefly. Takes less damage from critical strikes, which means that shred build means that you want your carries there to still kill it. Like they're going to be the main source of damage on it, but it just won't be so crazy swingy in that regard. Basic attacks now deal a percentage of max health. This normalizes it across the cast. And we also have decreased the base strength scaling that it gets. So in short, against squishies, this will be pretty significantly less damage. Against tanks, this will be less damage, just not as much of a difference because tanks right now, they do tank it pretty well, but it's still, we think, even too lethal for them. But we don't want to like half the damage they take because at that point they won't actually take any and they won't feel threatened at all. Yeah. We don't want to go that far. Cool. We also have the reduction. So some of these I know came in later, so I'm reading through these right now as well. The Scorched one is the one that's new to me.
Yes.
Reduce the healing by 3.75 per victim level. Reduce the damage dealt to the Fire Giant per victim level in the last 5 seconds. So this is the debuff that actually applies to the target that's hit by the Fire Giant attack. This just means that you won't. This should be that if you were the person that pulled it, you're not getting as penalized for it.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about the other primary objective.
Yep. And these are the damage. This is like the damage that it deals.
Yes.
So these are just the things about like normalizing damage across the board, and things that are avoidable, they can actually hurt pretty significantly.
Yeah. Gold Fury, similar changes to the Fire Giant. You've got the same, takes 30% less damage, increased lifesteal effectiveness, and some other changes here.
Yep, basically a mirror. Less damage from crits means that won't just blow them up instantaneously. We made it so that you can lifesteal a bit from them, so if you actually have lifesteal items, that sustain is a bit more valuable against them, especially because we are reducing lifesteal across the board. Basic attacks now deal a certain percentage of health to be normalized against the targets. And then, the rendered change, if you were the person taking it, it shouldn't be as intense.
Cool. All right, Pyromancer up next. This is the objective that should feel relatively the same if you're playing in live compared to Open Beta 15.
Yeah, the changes here are just less extreme. They end up normalizing out to similar-ish values, but we want to make sure that things did consistent across the board, like how you interact with them.
Yeah. All right, the dual lane buff camp. The initial spawn time has been pushed back from 1 minute to 1 minute 30.
Yep, so just gives them more time to like actually be in place to contest it.
Yeah. Next up, the totem, the initial spawn time has been pushed up from 2 minutes to 1 minute 30.
Yep, so if you want to contest it, it's going to be a more consistent timing. And that also means that they end up matching where you, like, if you go between the roles, you'll actually be like, okay, well, I contested this similar time.
Yeah. All right, the side teleporters, the unlock time has been pushed up from 10 minutes to 6 minutes. But then I feel like we should talk about kind of the other things on the side lanes as well, because they all kind of, that kind of work together in this one kind of symbiotic relationship. So we talked about the Cyclops camp getting XP rewards in addition to gold.
Yep.
The side A camp A, the one closer to the lane, now spawns 1 elder and 2 small harpies. The spawn time has been pushed back to 2 minutes. And we've increased the respawn delay from every 2 minutes to every 3 minutes.
Yeah, so pretty significant cut to the amount of camps that you're able to just farm there and clear.
Yeah. And then the side camp B, the one closest to the teleporter, as we mentioned, this has been converted into an Oracle's camp, and then killing this camp will grant vision around that teleporter for 3 minutes.
Yep, so just different utility for killing the camps. It's not just I'm just going to go farm this to be safe. And if you choose not to farm it, you're going to be foregoing potentially like pressure like on the Cyclops camp, which is like that one's going to be a lot more contested in this patch.
Yeah, and then we've also increased the respawn delay on the Oracle's camp from 2 minutes to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So going to be up a lot less often.
Yeah, really significant hit to the amount of times that's up.
And they don't respawn at the same time. So if you are trying to do them on cooldown, it's going to take more time to get less benefit out of it.
Yeah, you'd have to wait to actually have them paired together if you're going to go there. Or you have to go there twice, which is a lot of time loss.
Sweet. All right, well, that is everything that I have in the Conquest changes section. And that was a long doc. Oh my goodness.
That's just a lot of things.
Lots
this patch
of stuff.
Ended up being really,
and it's been
really
2 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, lots of really exciting stuff from all the god changes, all the item changes, some of the tank specific items getting a little bit more buffs, some conquest level changes, not necessarily a large conquest pass, but just some changes to address some of the player feedback that we've been seeing over the past few updates.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully, like this is a step in the right direction. Yeah. While we work on some other things, we have our team's working on some stuff right now that I can't talk too much about, but just trying to make the game better. Like we talked about lighting and stuff. We're meeting again on Monday to talk more about like further changes to Conquest gameplay. Like we're aware that there are some things that we want to do. We're just locking in a final plan, and this is the next step of let's get it a little bit better for the short term and keep going from there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, after this show, I will save out this doc and share it on social media. Again, everything that we covered today is kind of subject to change. There may be additions or subtractions based on what Pond can get done in the next 3 hours after the show.
Yeah.
But
I do have one other change from what we previously announced for this update. As of right now, it does not look like Quick Play Joust is going to make the update. We're still having just some bot AI issues where they are not wanting to end the game at the appropriate time.
Yeah, they want to keep playing.
Yeah, and while we've all been locked in games with teammates like that, it is not a great experience, especially if it's supposed to be a new player focused mode. We need to have the bots very consistently trying to end games, working with you when you're trying to end the game, essentially. So we are it's almost certainly not going to be in 15 at this point. And it's just going to take us a little bit longer to get it right because this is a new player focused mode.
We want to take the time to make sure it's
like it doesn't really affect the people watching this show too much. It has potential to improve new player retention, but if we ship something that doesn't work right, it's just going to be bad for new player retention. It's not worth running a test on something that we know is broken. So it's better for us to take just a little bit longer to get it right. Apologies for people who are waiting for that because it has been. We talked about this first for the last update.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, we can't quite get it working. And then this one. So if you were waiting for it, apologize for the further delay there. But
we're trying.
Better, really better to get this kind of thing perfect before we ship it, before just shipping it as a test.
Sweet. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left. So shall we open up the floor for some Q&A? I know we talked a lot on this show. So let's hear from chat. Chat, if you have any questions on anything that we talked about today, anything Open Beta 15 focused in general. If you got any feedback from PTS, we'd love to hear it. So we'll open up the floor for the next 10 minutes or so and hang out before we call it a show and call it a weekend.
Yeah, someone did ask me to say hi, so I'll do that.
I've seen a few comments about my shirt today. This is not any comment about DKO or the future of DK. Somebody's like DKO 2 confirmed. No, I like this shirt. It's Friday, more of a casual Friday shirt. Yeah. And DKO was a really fun game. Unfortunately, players didn't enjoy it the same way that we did, but it was fun.
I feel like I saw 80% of my wardrobe is Hi-Rez stuff.
It is,
completely. It's
one of the blessings and curses of working at a game studio. It's just so many shirts.
Yeah, you've got the Hi-Rez logo shirt on.
I do.
Yeah. So my shirt is all Hi-Rez or patterned button-ups.
Yep.
And this is kind of both. So I felt like it was fun.
And it's a baseball jersey, and you're a baseball fan.
I am a baseball fan, yes. Has Pon Pon been promoted to main cast? No, this was just the week of Pon. Lots of things he's actively working on that was good to have him on to talk about.
Yeah.
So, ideally we aren't taking up as much of Pon's time, and he can focus on, doing other important work.
It's fun to chat, though.
Yeah. Now everybody's talking about other Hi-Rez spin-off games. I missed Titan Talk. Can you redo the entire show?
Oh my gosh, no.
Go back to the
You
top.
can do your own Titan Talk at home. I'll even give you the document here in a little bit.
Will there be a focus on making farm and solo way more contestable in the future? I mean, that's when we do like our full kind of like conquest rebalance pass. I think the general goals that you saw today, like we want contesting to feel meaningful. We want there to be things that are available to contest. The ways that you contest it could be just more than just like I hit the thing the most. It just depends on what we end up wanting to go towards, but like that's the direction we want to move in. Is that I think there's been a lot of like missing subtleties about like how you wanted to play like your little micro decisions that you make in lane versus the macro decision you make about where you want to farm. Making those more impactful choices is the kind of direction we want to go.
Fun Friday question. What are you guys' favorite game genre outside of MOBA?
MMO, RPG.
Yeah.
That's not even close.
It definitely would have been that, but I just don't have much time to play MMOs anymore. But I've played almost every MMO. Probably nowadays, if I'm not playing a MOBA, I'm playing like a Metroidvania of some sort.
Rhythm games for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I love rhythm games.
Yeah, I love rhythm games too. Like the only problem is every single time I go to like an arcade that actually has like a machine, I then immediately go down the rabbit hole of wanting that machine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I just get sad that I don't have that machine.
One of my buddies has like 3 like arcade machines at his house. He's got
that's sick.
He's got the one where you're like a DJ. It's like Beatmania, I think it is. Yep. He's got Nostalgia, which is like a keyboard one, and then he's got Scotto, which is like you throw ping pong balls, they bounce off things, and it's incredible. I enjoy going over to his house.
Yeah, I actually bought like a full like steel based DDR
pad. Oh, that's sick.
Nice. And then the machine, there's one machine I want that has like it's a grid of 4x4 cubes that you can hit. Like I want that machine.
Cool. Do we have info about the soft reset? This, I believe it's going to follow the exact same rules as the last soft reset that we did. I don't have those in front of me, but it's the same rules, and you should expect that to occur.
Am I happy with the healing patch changes so far? Yeah, I actually think I overall am pretty happy about the changes so far. We saw in PTS that like generally when people were getting really high lifesteal amounts or generally people were getting like really high healing amounts, they felt impactful in the team fights, but they didn't feel oppressive. People could burn them down still. And it wasn't really until we saw like the abuse case of a few specific items interacting together. So the fact that like the game felt pretty good on the PTS games is a pretty good sign, especially for like when you're trying to do big sweeping changes like this. It's really daunting.
It's always scary because you don't know what's going to happen. You know?
And sometimes like your changes have counterintuitive effects, which we'll see. Obviously, PTS isn't live. When we get to live, we'll see how people interact with live. But I actually feel like we largely hit a lot of our goals. I think overall, this should mean that healers and lifestealers are more consistent. They will be able to feel that strength more directly when it matters most to them. But it won't be something that they're able to just completely leverage to fully heal outside of fights too quickly. And people will still be able to burn them down if they get caught out of position. They just can't completely heal through it. And then people are like, oh, I don't have the anti-heal back.
Someone in chat asked if this was inspired by Paladin's cauterize healing changes. I assume that is not an angle that you are familiar with.
No, I don't actually know how Paladin's cauterize worked.
Yeah, so basically the way Paladin's cauterize worked was like Paladin's has like items that you buy in game similar to Smite, but much smaller. And cauterize was one that like is basically on hit apply anti-heal, like on shot apply anti-heal. And it was somewhat similar in that new players would never buy Cauterize and they would just lose every game, you know?
Yeah.
The difference, I would say, to just because I am more familiar with both games, the main difference is that like Cauterize, when we got rid of Cauterize, we made it so that Paladin's built-in default anti-heal ramped up over time to where like in the later rounds, healers were like 90% like anti-healed by being shot. versus having a consistent healing experience throughout the game. Whereas the point of this is more to have a consistent healing experience throughout the game, not a consistent ramp up in damage and ramp down in healing.
Yep. Someone asked me if I play Magic the Gathering. I've played it. I get sucked into it every so often, but I don't play it regularly. Although when I do play, I generally play like red decks for just if I play like super aggro, or I like to play blue decks and make everyone else's experience terrible.
Oh man!
Did you see that apparently Wizards made $200 million in a day on releasing the Final Fantasy set?
Oh yeah, I mean they got money from me. That was the first and only pre-release that I've ever gone to.
Oh, that's awesome!
And it was like a whole tournament thing. Like it was very fun. That was a very fun time.
I have not been to a pre-release since moving to Georgia.
Oh man!
But
we got to get you out to an LGS.
I used to go to every one. so it's kind of funny. So when back in California, I went to one like every week, or not every week, but every pre-release, and I played most weekends at a local gaming store. And when I moved out here, I was like, one of my first weeks here, I was like, I looked up where the Magic shop was. I was going to go to. They had like a Modern night. I was going to get on a Modern night, and I had my decks. And one of the other guys in the marketing cube was like, oh, hey, did you know that we have like a board game group? You should come to that instead. And I was like, chance to make friends with coworkers? Cool, I'll go do that. And then I just ended up getting sucked into this board game group with a bunch of Hi-Rezers that nobody's still here anymore, but a bunch of old Hi-Rezers. And I like hung out with that group instead of going back to play more Magic. So I never made it to the game store that I intended to go to. Instead, I was just board game group.
I saw 2 questions.
Cool.
When is Huey's Aspect release? I assume we'll follow the same schedule.
I'm pretty sure it's the Friday after the update next week.
And then someone mentioned a Runeforge Hammer. That one we see, like, the base stats do actually a pretty good job of making it pretty strong, but is kind of to our, like, item specialization pass we did before. That one feels like it should be more impactful for having the passive, so we might look at that in the future. We are buffing, like, quite a few prod items, and there is a critical mass where, like, they'll synergize together in a way that can be hard to predict sometimes, so it might just be better on its own for the sake of having more prod items that work well with it, so we'll see.
Can we get settings from the live game linked to PTS? Unfortunately, it goes the other direction.
Yes.
So basically, our environments get copied from PTS to live, is the way like the staging works. And to be able to bring stuff back from live to PTS is a very difficult process. So unfortunately, probably not going to have any.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot internally over this past week on just how we can make the PTS experience better for players that are hopping in, just because we know there are issues with not being able to have enough diamonds to unlock the content and try it out. We know there's an issue with the level gating on the queues, so if you're new to PTS and you haven't played anything, you're level 1 and you can't hit the Conquest queues like you should or like you want to. So we've been talking about that and figuring out the best path forward to make that experience better for everybody.
And I have a couple notes that I've written down here that I didn't mention out loud, but restricted camera pitch not being available in PTS with the new setting screen, something that we had noted already. I'll follow up and make sure that actually got addressed. And then Viper shots not working on pip health damage things like they don't work on wards or walls or statues.
Mulan banner.
Mulan banner.
I have to go look at how that's configured.
So I wrote those down and we'll take a look. The camera pitch thing is already fixed.
Nice. Awesome.
Thank you. I will cross that out then and not follow up. Can we get God-specific controller sensitivity in the new settings area? I want ranged characters who have less than my melee. I'm going to say maybe eventually, but probably not. Definitely not for this update, and maybe not for the next update or two.
Have you thought about giving ability tooltip tag, visible tags like heal, movement, dash, physical, phasing if it goes through walls? There's a certain amount that's information overload if you tag literally everything, but I do know that, like, for example, in this healing pass, we tagged a whole bunch of things as healing abilities. Right now, that's only really intuition that you have to kind of know that it's there. I know Clumsy wants to make a pass later on to add it as like an extra little bullet point, but it'd be nice, especially if you want to do more interactions with that kind of stuff, giving you more information clarity there. Plus, there's just some useful things where, like, you don't know necessarily by reading ability exactly how it looks, but you can get more information if we tag it better. So it'd be nice to get more stuff there just in general, but it's a surprisingly involved process because you also have to then do it for like every character kind of in mass in one go, which is a long list.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool new system. Fun. I know you had talked about it on, gosh, you've been on so many shows over the past couple of weeks. I forget which one, but it was just like, we have this system. Like, what if we go through and tag fire abilities? And like, is there anything cool that we could do on that front? So
yeah, we talked like really early on SMITE 2 development, like maybe like doing more stuff like that, but we ended up just not kind of doing it because we also wanted to make sure we had a good purpose for it. But like the healing one's a really good example of like why that tagging can be really valuable.
For some reason, Bobby's asking who our Mario Kart mains are.
I guess it depends on the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I haven't played the
Mario
newest
Kart
one
in a long time. So
I do like some pink gold peach.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I pretty much always default to Yoshi.
Yeah, I pretty
like
much
my general.
I'm kind of the same way, but with Toad.
That's such a random question, but it's Fun Friday.
It's Fun Friday.
And speaking of questions, it's 2 p.m., so it's time for one more question. See if I can pick a good one here. Wait for chat to fill up.
I'll answer this one. We've talked about it before, but I think, if you don't watch every week, this is a big question for people. How do we pick which gods to bring back? What the god order, how we release gods. And I think that also applies to people that just keep asking about, what about this god? What about this god? What about this god? Right? That's the majority of the questions we get during a show.
It's funny because it seems like there's always a different god in chat. That seems to be the trend every time we do a show. It's funny.
Sometimes you've not heard about a single god, and then it's like for a week you just hear nothing about it. So basically, we look at a lot of things. We look at like popularity in SMITE 1, just because raw number of people that play it is a good indicator of how important they are. We look at community surveys about like, are there specific aspects of the community that wants a specific god? We look at like, is there a unique gameplay element that is brought by this god that we don't currently have in the game? Like a wheelish pole, is a thing that we didn't have otherwise until we brought a wheelish in. And then the other really important part, the other two important parts is that we try and rotate through the roles, and not necessarily the exact same order every time, but we want to make sure that like you're never waiting too long for another god of your favorite role. And that doesn't necessarily mean class. That means like, jungler, mid laner, so like if we were to do Ao Kuang, he would probably come as a jungler, not as a mage, right? And then perhaps most importantly right now, because we're trying to go at an every 2 week pace, we need to be very careful about picking gods that fit into the available amount of working time, right? So we try and balance between, is this a hard god for design? Is it a hard god for certain art departments? Because, like Scylla was very hard for like rigging and tech art, and everybody has their own unique areas of difficulty. So we try and balance it out to where it's not like we have multiple gods that are difficult in a row for any given department. Or if design is trying to do a big healing pass or something else, then maybe we'll try and pick a god that's easier for design or for programming so they have time to do those kinds of things. So it's really like a combination of popularity, community sentiment, role, and like how does it fit into our available working time.
I had a question, but I've now lost
I'm sorry, I talked too long.
Maybe I can go back and find it. There's actually two technically. I guess I'll do the one that I remember. There's another one that popped up, was Ossiwen.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And we talked about like the lifesteal itemization, and I think one area of the lifesteal itemization that didn't feel great was there wasn't a great hunter option, and not a great carry option in general. Aussie from SMITE 1 would be a natural fit for that. Maybe we'll do something new, but I think that area was an area we wanted to look at. But we already had a lot of items coming in this patch. We can look to fill that gap in an upcoming patch.
Yeah. Cool. And I think
actually, I remember what the other one
was.
Go
for it, yeah.
Someone mentioned their FPS was really, really bad. From patch to patch, things can change, and it can vary your FPS. But that person specifically made it sound like they went from like 200 to 30. If that's the case, potentially roll back drivers, make sure your GPU is not dying, and also make sure that you aren't accidentally using your CPU as like the thing that's trying to render the game, and make sure it's your GPU. Generally, our patches don't have that big of performance swings. That generally means something is wrong on your end. So definitely, if you end up doing those things and that doesn't help you, you can send us more information. We can look at diagnostics for it. But I saw that person. I was like, that person probably just needs more technical help.
Yeah, cool. And then my question, I thought it'd be interesting to bring up just as we start. We talked about Conquest a little bit on the show. And we're continuing to think about Conquest, but I've seen somebody asking in chat multiple times, can we bring back Invader's Curse? Pawn, what do you think about that?
So I think that invading is a strategy that should be allowed. It also is a thing that should be, like, if the opponents aren't choosing to engage with you and you're having pressure, you need ways to leverage that, and invading is one of them. If you make invading too restrictive, it means that, like, you just kind of lose that avenue of play, and it adds a lot of depth. So I don't want to see Invader's Curse come back. I think when we added it in SMITE 1, it was a very unique set of problems that we were having at that time that were kind of like more systemic global changes that we'd have to do quite a lot of adjustment to really resolve at its root. Where the Invader's Curse, especially at the early game mark, kind of largely addressed it in kind of one go, where we're focused on like a lot of things. But I think generally if Invader's Curse were to come back, we'd want to actually, like, if it was there, we'd do it as like more of a band-aid for temporary, and we'd try and address the root issue, because at the end of the day, you should be able to invade.
Sweet.
Chat says W Pawn.
W Pawn, indeed. W Pawn for being on so many Titan Talks over the past couple of weeks. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to chill with Chad and hang out and talk about SMITE 2. Open Beta 15 headed your way next Tuesday. We'll be back on Monday for another episode. We'll have full patch notes for Open Beta 15. Talk about anything that trickles in after Pawn gets back to work and, you know, gets in his last minute changes before we branch. But until then,
we did an Alani check.
Cherry Twist. You can't miss the Alani check, especially on Fun Friday.
I've been doing the over-caffeinate in the morning thing recently. We've got these like cold brew coffees that's just like too much caffeine, but they're good. So I've just got bubbly water.
Bubbly water.
Bubbly water.
Nothing like a little Perrier, you know?
Yes.
And then I also went with nothing.
Yes.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the show, guys. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll be back here on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, right here at twitch.tv/SmiteGame for another episode of Titan Talk. But until then, hope everyone has a great weekend. Peace.